everyone, it's NonnaGrace, and I'm from Western New York. It was getting to the point where my supper was ready, and I said to Jim, you better come in so we can eat. But then we noticed that the clock said it's time to make my video, so we decided we'd make the video first. Today I'd like to talk about how Mr. Brown got his name, because I've been getting questions about how Mr. Brown got her name. She's actually a hen and not a rooster, and she's not brown like somebody put in the comments. She's not a Mr. and she's not brown either. So how did she get the name Mr. Brown? Well, when Mr. Brown was born, hatched, yeah, but before she was hatched, she was underneath a hen that was sitting in the maternity ward with another hen that had hatched out some chicks, and she decided to give up on her chicks and just help that other hen raise her baby chicks. So she left Mr. Brown the egg in the nest, and it was only a week away of being hatched. So I took that little egg and I made a pretend, homemade, it's not pretend, it's an actual
It's an actual working incubator.
It worked. It was an incubator that I made, but I made it out of medicine box that Emily used to get medicine in when she was taking growth hormones. And I put little straws in it to make vent holes, and I had a thermometer in there with the humidity, and I had a dish of water and a sponge with water on the sponge, and I had Mr. Brown's little egg in there.
Had a little light bulb in there for heat.
Had a light bulb, yes, for heat. And the light bulb was actually the size of what your night lights are. That's what I used. So to my surprise, a week later, Mr. Brown hatched. I caught it pipping. I really looked for the videos of the hatching of Mr. Brown. I can't find my videos. I can't find the story, so you'll just have to listen to this story.
It's in the back video.
It's in there somewhere, but I must have named it something different. I don't know what I even named it. So it's got other stuff along with it. Well, after Mr. Brown hatched, actually Mr. Brown saw me and my camera was the first two things that Mr. Brown saw. My Aunt Rosemary, her name is Rosemary Brown, she died on the same day that Mr. Brown was hatched. And I really thought Mr. Brown was a rooster, so that's why I decided to name it Mr. Brown after her last name. If I'd known it was a hen, that little hen's name probably would have been Rosemary. But because I really thought it was a rooster, I named it Mr. Brown. Well, Mr. Brown kept growing, and
Where did she live?
Oh, she lived in the house. I forgot that part.
Yeah.
She lived in the house for a good year. I would bring her outside only on days when the temperature was 40 and above, so that she could go to I used to call it chicken school. She used to go and spend time with the other little chicks that were born a week before her. She was enjoying it, but the mama hen was not very nice to the little chick. She would shoo her away, so we would come back into the house. And Mr. Brown learned a lot of tricks. She learned how to distinguish the color of a card, and she did learn to ring a bell or tap her beak on a tin to make a bell sound to get scratch. She would always she would take her feathers out of a container that I had some of her feathers, and she'd drop it on the floor, and if I picked it up, she'd drop it again like babies do when you drop things off the high chair. She would also, if she pooped on the floor, because I couldn't get her to potty train, when she'd poop on the floor, I would get the paper to pick it up, and she'd come running over because she'd try to steal my paper every time I wiped. And then when I would mop the floor, she used to hop on the mop, and there is a short with that picture of her riding the mop where she pooped and we were cleaning up the poop.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. What else was I going to tell about Mr. Brown? Oh, Mr. Brown got the name was because of my Aunt Rosemary.
Mm-hmm. Mr.
Brown is now, it took me a while to get Mr. Brown out with the other chickens, but in the meantime, little lady had a stroke. I had a hen that had a stroke. And there is a video about little lady's life, the life of a chicken, or a little lady's life or something. I don't know what it's called. but it shows little lady in her progression of how I got her to where she was able to move her feet again. She did walk funny for a long time. Then finally, she walks normal. She runs with the other hens. She acts just like she was okay and never had this stroke. And Mr. Brown used to visit little lady I had little lady in the house too, in a playpen. And little lady has a look-alike. And the look-alike has really big ears. I've shown her in a few videos where I say, see the white ears? Those are her ears. And that's little lady's look-alike. Little lady has a lot more white on her neck. And she has smaller ears. A lot of you cannot tell my birds apart. And even Jim can't tell the birds apart. But I can tell the birds apart. There's a few that I don't have names for only because I don't really like them. Or they're not been very nice. Like the brown birds, they're not nice at all. I have a mean girl, which is my black hen. She is mean, but she's been a lot nicer lately. She's always looking for food, though. She's a huge bird, and she's always standing right next to me, waiting for the scratch to be given to her personally. But I throw the scratch to everybody, and then I give special to Mr. Brown. Mr. Brown is my special little hen. So her name stayed Mr. Brown only because I kept calling her Mr. Brown. And she is a beautiful little hen. She's still friendly. Well, that's how Mr. Brown got its name.
Does she still come to you when you call her once in a while?
She will come when I call and I say, where are you, Mr. Brown? She'll come around and I see where she's at. But I used to go out to under the tree and I used to say, Mr. Brown, come here. And she used to come and greet me, but she hasn't greeted me in a while. She was acting kind of strange for a little bit, like she was an outcast. She might have been the bottom of the pecking order. There is a true pecking order with chickens, and I have a feeling she was at the bottom. Or she was feeling very depressed because she really thinks she's a human at times and maybe doesn't feel like she fits in with the chickens, but lately she's been very good, and she's been running with the chickens. I think I told it all. If there's anything else you'd like to know about Mr. Brown, just put it in the comments and I'll try to answer it. Have a great night and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.